and I am delighted, honored to have Gregory Gettinger with us today, who is the founder of Tennis Esports and the CEO of VR Motion Learning. This is a major undertaking, Gregory. It could not have been taken lightly. How did it all start? Why did it all start?
I questioned myself, isn't there something out there which really can help me? And then I took a look, and I have seen a lot of wearables and a lot of video analyzers, and they're all good. There's nothing wrong with it. But something which was really, fits the 21st century and is high tech and gives me the accurate numbers and feedback, and also most of all the entertaining factor which I want to have, that was missing.
Okay, so you thought, I know, I'm going to digitize the sports.
At the end, that was the answer. Yes, I said, well, let's digitalize tennis.
So what's the big problem in the tennis industry? You've kind of hinted at it, but what is the big problem?
I think the big problem is that you do have a lot of tools to improve your technique. It is not very much used, and the reason it's not very much used, it's partly expensive, and partly it gets boring for people to use it. So there is no entertaining factor, attached to all these training tools. And at the other side of the medal, you have a lot of tennis games, arcade games, VR tennis games. But all those games, they are just, artificial strokes and ball physics, which comes out of Unity programming, and it's not really accurate and authentic. So there is nothing which keeps those two factors together. And that's what we actually wanted to create with Tennis Esports.
Just the word ball physics and all the different technologies that need to come together. How far down the road are you to sorting ball physics?
I think you will never get down to 100%, because there's a difference if you have some headsets on and if you have to hit a virtual ball and you're on a virtual court. But I think you can get to 90–95%. And I would guess that we are now at around about 85%, but we still have 10% more to go.
So Gregory, this is fascinating. Tell me a bit more about the technology, the detail behind it.
Well, we have a lot of pieces of different kind of technology. It's computer-aided motion learning in a large scale. It is high-quality motion analysis. It's similarity modeling, simulation. We have a lot of machine learning. We have precise motion tracking. We have a markerless system. And the biggest task is actually the ball physics. Our ball physics is a real differentiator to any kind of arcade game. And we put a lot of effort, time, and thinking into the ball physics, and that's where a lot of our technology lies in.
And when you get the ball physics right and the haptic feedback, this is game-changing.
Yes, I think the haptic feedback is something which is important. Right now, we are developing a VR tennis racket, which gives you also the haptic feedback which you need if you hit a ball, because a real tennis player feels if you hit the ball on the sweet spot, on the frame, or elsewhere, and that's haptical feedback we want to give the tennis player too. So that's something which is in the pipeline.
Gregory, tell me a little bit about the team. So no doubt you started as a small company and you'll be growing rapidly. Just what are the skills? What are the people? Where do they work? Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, actually, we put together a team of experts of all the different fields which is needed in this technology and this venture. So we have people from VR technology, we have people from motion tracking, we have people who know ball physics, we have people who are programming and developing the software, we have people who are coming from the game industry, from the entertainment side, we have people coming from the graphical side, and then the usual management team, which is a CIO, a CTO, a CFO, and a CEO. All that is in place now. So But we also have, besides the team, a very good cooperation with the Technical University of Vienna. And actually in two ways. The one is we're working with them on the ball physics. So there's a real thesis going on the ball physics to get that really right. And the second cooperation is with the interactive systems professor at the Technical University, where we work together with the similarity modeling, with the algorithm and the artificial intelligence on the biomechanical side. We also have a very good cooperation with semi-motion reality in Munich. They are one of the key industry partners in motion tracking. They are advising, all the Olympic teams all over the world. So we're working together with them on that algorithm.
Okay, so first of all, Gregory, just tell me when you got your funding, and then how's the pace? What's the traction been like since getting the funding?
Well, we founded the company in August 2019, and we founded the company already having in place the whole idea of the technology and the setup, all that stuff. So we started programming in October 2019. So we all have almost 2 years of programming. And since then, we have built up a community, actually. We have more than 4,000 followers in LinkedIn. We have a tennis coach group, a tennis esports group of almost 5,000 people who work together with us. And we have a big partner network out there in the world.
So not only are you the leader in this new industry, I think you're the only one dedicated to ball physics. Have you won any awards or received any accolades along the journey so far?
Yes, well, we won the A1 Innovation Award. We won the Pioneer Competition Award. And I'm proud that we have won the most recognized prize in the industry, which is the Laval Virtual Awards 2021. So that gives us a lot of push in the market. And I think the best of all is the great feedback we get from the people, when they play the system. You have seen at Decathlon, if people play the system, they should just say, wow, it's great, they love it. And I think that's the best thing you have. If you know that your product is good, and you will get better feedback over time.
Lovely. And how does virtual reality work?
Well, actually, all you have to do is you put on your VR headsets and you get beamed on a virtual court and you hit virtual balls and off you go. You play tennis like on the real court. So that's how it works.
How would you describe your status or your situation now in terms of rolling out? Where are we now, and then what have you got to do?
We have now made up the first version. And the first version is that you can play different training exercises with a virtual ball machine. So you're really, hitting the ball with ball physics like on the real court. So that's a major improvement. And then you can play against real opponents around the world online. So you can play from home. Mark, if you have a headset, I put my headsets on, we could play tennis now, like on the real court, but we don't have to go to the real court. We can play from home. Or if you want to have fun, you just play with yourself. It's called mirror play, and you just hit the ball over the net and you get beamed on the other side and you play your own ball back. So that's what we call mirror play, which is very challenging because it's a very fast game. Well, once we have set up, all the environment, we go into many different fields. One is that we want to have a very sophisticated training, biomechanical training, so that you can compare your forehand with an ideal forehand, so you improve your technique. We want to have mental training, all kind of training exercises which really helps your daily tennis. On the other side, we're going to bring in a lot of entertainment features like matching, gaming, tournaments, and then at the end of the day, we want to establish the Super League, which is a league with teams, with tennis teams all over the world, playing against each others, like in the esport industry.
How will players adapt or adopt this? And to what extent might it grow the game? Is it affordable and accessible?
A tennis player can improve his technique at home and play at home every day 10-15 minutes and really improve. And we have a lot of research showing that if you play 10-15 minutes VR tennis at home, you really improve your game, your technique. And there are research studies out there saying that you can improve 30 to 35% within 8 weeks. So it's really tremendous. So that's the one part. But you also can have, as a tennis player, you can be a gamer, you can be, just a sport enthusiast, or somebody who wants to stay fit at home and do something else than just, pushing button at the computer. They also can join tournaments. They can win prize money. They can, entertain themselves. So there's a lot in there for the tennis player, which is the consumer.
So they also have an opportunity to be coached by the world's best as an avatar, I think. Yes.
Yes.
And from what you said, I can see that every age group from the plus 65, plus 75s can use this. But I think excitingly, the 6-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, the 14-year-olds might get sucked into tennis because it's cool and using this technology. Have you found that to be true?
Yes. So the market research we have conducted shows that the younger the players are, they're more likely they're going to use VR tennis. But the most important thing is that you have to know that 85% of the youngsters drop out of tennis once they are 13, 14 years old. So if you go to a tennis club, you find a lot of kids from 6 to 13, and then a lot of people, starting with 40 to 85. But this gap between 14 and 40 is a huge gap. And we're basically, getting these youngsters into electronic tennis and bringing them back to the tennis court again, because they improve their skills and they love to utilize their skills there. And the tennis players can see the potential of this tool, because if you look at the tennis players nowadays, starting from 101 ranking, they all lose money. With our application, you can basically run a tournament from home or from your club without traveling and still earn some prize money. So there's a lot of potential to be seen from the top tennis players. We are just starting this Friday to go out to 20 cities in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland and host VR tournaments all over. So we are right now on the edge to roll out.
And a demonstration sport in the Olympics, did I hear that rumor right?
Yes, so that's our big target. Our big target is actually to be on the Asian Games next year in China, and then hit Paris as a test in 24, and be really Olympic in 28 in Los Angeles. That's the target.
Let's get us into cost, okay? Because the idea of playing in a living room is great. What equipment do you need? What's it going to cost?
Well, you need to know that we have two versions. The one is the home version, and the other one is the club, the professional version. In the home version, you just use the Oculus Quest, which you can get for 300 pounds or 350 euros out in the market, and you play with your controllers. You play at home, and you don't run around in the living room because you don't have the space. So that's the consumer version, and it will cost you 20 euros per month on a subscription base. The club version is a professional version where you have much more space available, where you run around like on a real tennis court. You have a real tennis racket in your hand, so you have the feeling and the weight and the balance of a real racket in your hand, and you can play tournaments online against other clubs in the world. So that's the more professional version, and the club there's a business model for the club that he pays 200 euros per month, which is a multi-user license, which means he can reimburse himself with member fees or with hourly fees.
Okay, and And what's the hardware? No doubt you need a super duper computer and headsets, and also no doubt in the future the size will come smaller, the cost will be cheaper. Talk me through the hardware, would you?
Well, in the home version, you need the Oculus Quest only, which is out there for 350 euros in the retail market. So that's all you need for the home version. So that's pretty easy. For the club version, you need to have a sophisticated VR headset system, which is the HTC Pro system, which we recommend. And you also need a desktop to support the system. So for the club, you easily talk about 3,000 or 4,000 euros, which you have to invest if you really want to set up in a professional way. And
you hinted earlier about the ability to do virtual tennis tournaments. This is exciting.
In the tennis industry, you only have the 4 Grand Slams. You have some national tournaments. You have a league on a local or regional, maybe even national base, but there's no international league out there. And that's something we want to establish over time. You know, the interesting thing is here, we're calling it tennis esports. And what we're doing is we're taking the esports business mechanics, which are working well. Esport is growing like hell. But replace the shooting of the aliens with a real traditional sport like tennis. So we're basically merging the best of 2 sides together into one product, into one environment.
And the way I understand your business model is that you're creating an ecosystem with different revenue streams and opportunities within that. Again, is that true?
Yes. So it's an ecosystem which consists of tennis players, tennis coaches, clubs, kids, parents, but also, you know, the whole tournament part with sponsors, with broadcasting, digital rights, you know, the whole league concept. So it's an ecosystem which works together with beginners, professionals, gamers, sponsors, events, and all the media which is involved here.
Gregory, this is going to be huge. Media, eyeballs, participation. Sponsors will want to come along. What do they get for their ride?
Well, there's a big benefit for sponsors to come to tennis esports, because we have a very attractive target group of age 18 to 24 and even younger. So we have a young audience. We have our audience is digital native, affluent. 43% of our community has a very high household income. They are highly engaged. They're sport fans. It's their family members. They are digital present. They're exposed to streaming, to YouTube, to social media. They're willing to go to live events and interested in sports. So it's a very attractive target group for the sponsors.
It sounds as though you've got a perfect storm brewing together to explode. Can you give me some comparables in parallel industries to you?
Yes, well, we actually have indeed a perfect storm, because if you look at all the markets around us, which are basically supporting us or affecting us, they're all exploding. The whole virtual sport market, which is just, you know, coming out nothing and expanding. So the second biggest market you have is the esport market, and you have more than 500 million players out there and 3 billion spectators in this esport market. It's a huge market now, and it's growing by 10 to 12% globally. And the third largest market which affect us is the whole VR market. So that market is growing by 30%, and the penetration of VR headsets it's just exploding. Every year there are 50 million more headsets coming into stream.
Wow. So you're riding the wave, basically.
We are riding a big wave, yes. Yes, what I wanted to tell you, Mark, is one of the reasons why this market is really exploding is because you have the big tech companies,
yes,
really supporting it. Okay, so you have Google, you have Apple, you have Microsoft, you have Facebook really investing into this market. So it's a market of the future. And at the same time, if you look at the sport organizations, you have the Olympic Committee, you have the clubs, you have the sport organizations. They'll all look into virtual sports, so they are driving that from their side. And also, if you look at the tennis Grand Slams, they all look into how can I complement our traditional sport with digital offers and with a virtual offer, with a virtual sport, and to boost all that. So all that together is basically driving it, and on top of all that is the pandemic with COVID, which drives it even more. And we call ourselves, we are motion learning, because our goal is it that you learn a perfect technique in our system. So once we have that so-called similarity modeling in the system, you really can improve your technique. You will see how I'm doing with my going into my knees. How is my follow through with the arm? Am I hitting the ball at the right spot? Am I hitting the ball too late or too early? Or are my shoulders in the right direction? All these biomechanical details you will get as a data set up in our system.
So moving into coaches now, I can see for innovative coaches, there are huge opportunities here. But by the same token, I can see that if you're not innovative and not curious, you're going to be threatened. So is that right?
We are not substituting the real tennis coach. We are supporting him. And as I just said, with the similarity modeling, which comes out there, the coach can now give homework to its students. You can tell your student, you know what, your backhand slice is not that good, and you need to improve the velocity and the spin of your strokes. So why don't you just try every day, and I will see from the data, session by session, how you're doing and if you're improving or not. And that is something that the student will come back to the court and say, oh yes, my backhand slice really improved because I tried several strokes in the VR system, and I'm training every day 10, 15 minutes, and here you go.
Coaches traditionally have a bucket of balls, you hit loads of shots, they shout stuff, and you learn, I argue, incrementally on improvement over the medium term at quite some cost. How are coaches going to shift?
Well, besides the fact that they can now offer their students homework possibilities, that they get feedback, data feedback, how they're doing on their strokes, and they can follow up session by session on real data, how the spin and the velocities and the strokes are doing. So that's something the coach can use. But very interesting for a tennis coach nowadays is the business aspect. Because what we're doing is we're creating tennis esport teams, and the coach can create a tennis esport team. And we share the revenues of the subscriptions with 25% to the tennis coaches. So they have now the opportunity to add an additional revenue stream besides their traditional coaching and enter new fields of business. So for the tennis coach, it's very interesting to keep the students, to offer them more to the students, and also create a new business line.
What about clubs? How's it going to affect clubs? And is there going to be in the future ever such a thing that you can play virtual reality tennis matches on the tennis court in the tennis club? That would be amazing if that was possible.
Yeah, it's interesting because just this weekend, we have been in Gütersloh in Germany, where Tennis Point actually presented a tennis club of the future. How should a tennis club of the future look like? And virtual tennis is part of it.
Okay. And in the retail industry, which has gone through a massive revolution through the internet, most stores from mum and pop through to franchises and national organizations have a significant online presence of a hybrid business model. Tennis doesn't seem to have done that.
Well, I just mentioned Tennis Point. Tennis Point has an online presence. Take the example of Decathlon. They have 1,648 stores all over the world, but they also have an online presence. And especially Decathlon has identified the need to go into virtual sports because that's a growing segment, especially if you take the pandemic where you have problems with traveling, problems with physical contacts. So they identify that as a future business stream. And that's why we are at Decathlon London on a test right now since months, where we are testing tennis esports on 300 square meters in Decathlon London City.
So how do you like VR tennis?
Fantastic, really good experience. I'd recommend it, and I'll certainly come back and try it again.
It was really fun. It was a bit different from playing on the court, but it was really, really fun. I will definitely come again, I think, to continue practicing.
My name is Lucas. I'm managing tennis racket departments in Decathlon, and I have such a greatest pleasure to accommodate VR tennis. People are amazed by using it. They can feel a little bit like tennis players, a little bit to play as a video games, but I think the most important is that they can just experience virtual tennis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much more realistic than I was expecting. It does feel like, especially when you get into a rally on the mirror mode, you just feel as though you are, you're playing yourself and playing a proper rally. It's great.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see these days. And then lastly, let's have a look at academies. So there are thousands of small tennis academies around the world doing high performance training and just normal club players. And because of their size, obviously, they can't access the same best of breed training that the large tennis academies can, obviously. Is this an ability for them to up level? Can tennis academies use this?
Absolutely. This is now the chance for a tennis academy with a fantastic tennis program to scale and leverage their programs all over the world.
So if they rolled it out over a period of time, all the Decathlon stores could become VR tennis clubs and get trained and play matches with each other and all that. Yes, is this hallucination or true?
Yes, but we have to be realistic. They need to have the space to do that. And you have to be in a country where people can afford this technology.
How can people get in touch if they want to jump on the bandwagon rather than the bandwagon roll all over them?
Just shoot me an email and I'm happy to answer every email.
And your email is, and we'll see if we can flash it up on the screen afterwards. What's your email?
My email is gregory@VR-motion-learning.com.
It's amazing.
It was fucking good.
After 3-4 shots, it felt like real tennis. It was incredible. It was a beautiful match.
It was so good. It was amazing. I loved it so much. I just can't talk about it. It's so good.
I absolutely enjoyed it. It was really good.
Definitely my favorite game.